All right, let's jump right in. Have you ever truly stopped to think about what a universe without a designer would actually mean? I'm not just talking about it as an idea, but as the fundamental reality of everything. Today, that's exactly what we're going to do. Dive deep into that very question and explore the logical consequences.
So let's really wrestle with this. This isn't just about what someone believes, it's about the very nature of existence. If our universe is just a natural phenomenon, the product of blind physical forces, what follows from that? What are the dominoes that logically have to fall? What would that world actually look like?
So here's how we're going to break this down. We've got 5 parts. First, we'll set the stage and define what a world without God really means in philosophy. Then we'll get into the tough stuff, the problem of hope and where value comes from. After that, we'll dig into the search for purpose, and finally, ask if there's any real formula for happiness in that kind of universe. Okay, first things first. To really get what this argument is all about, we need to be crystal clear on the core idea we're examining. This is the foundation for, well, everything else that we're going to talk about.
The idea is called philosophical naturalism. And here's a pretty easy way to think about it. Imagine the universe is a completely sealed box. Everything, and I mean everything, that happens inside that box, from a star exploding to you having a thought, can be explained by what's already inside the box. Just matter, energy, and the laws of physics. Nothing can reach in from the outside. No God, no spirits, no supernatural stuff at all.
Now, when you take that sealed box idea and combine it with atheism, you arrive at a really challenging conclusion. And that's the central argument we're exploring today. This formula you're looking at isn't meant to be emotional or dramatic. It's presented as the rational endpoint if that first idea, philosophical naturalism, is true. So let's unpack each of these words: hope, value, purpose, and happiness, and see what they really mean here.
All right, let's start with that first one, the problem of hope. And look, we're not talking about just, wishing for a good day. We're talking about that deep human desire for some kind of ultimate justice, some sense that it all means something in the end.
And right away, you see this huge contrast in how you view suffering. In a theistic worldview, hardship might be temporary, it might even have a point, be part of a bigger plan where everything is made right. But in a naturalist view, pain, pleasure, evil, they're all just dominoes falling in a cosmos that is completely indifferent. They don't mean anything beyond the physical event itself. The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer really captured this feeling of hopelessness. He basically said, we're like lambs playing in a field, totally oblivious, while a butcher is just watching us, deciding which one to pick off next. It's a bleak image, for sure, but it gets to the heart of it. If our existence is just physical and it ends, we just live knowing that disaster could strike any of us at any time, for no reason at all.
And this is where it gets really stark. Think about the countless victims of horrific atrocities throughout history. In a purely physical universe, their story just ends. There's no final resolution, no cosmic court of appeals, no balancing of the scales. Their suffering just fades into nothing, into oblivion.
This brings us to what might be the most difficult question of all for naturalism. Where does objective value even come from? If everything inside our sealed box is just matter and energy, what makes one collection of atoms, say a person, objectively more valuable than any other?
Now, this might sound like a ridiculous question, but it's a serious philosophical prompt. It's designed to force us to get to the very root of what we mean by value. On what basis can we actually say that a human life is worth more than just an object?
Because if you follow the logic, if our thoughts, our love, our sense of self are all just complex chemical reactions in our brain, then from a strictly physical perspective, the difference between a person and a rock is really just a matter of complexity. It's not a difference in fundamental kind. So from this point of view, at the most basic level, the end of a human life and smashing a chocolate bunny are both just rearrangements of matter. Of course, we feel that one is a terrible tragedy and the other is meaningless. But that feeling, that's just a subjective state inside our heads. It's not an objective truth about the universe. And this right here is the central paradox. How do we build our entire society around ideas like universal human rights or the sanctity of life, if at the same time we believe we are just accidental byproducts of a blind, purposeless natural process? This quote really gets to the heart of that tension.
So, this leads us straight to the next big question: purpose. If we weren't designed, then, well, why are we here? What's the point of any of it?
Here's a powerful way to think about it. Imagine we are all passengers on this incredible, beautiful ship, but we know for an absolute fact that it's sinking. This isn't just a metaphor.
Scientists generally agree the universe is heading for an eventual heat death, and long before that happens, our own sun will expand and destroy Earth. So the final destination for us, and for everything humanity has ever built, is oblivion.
Now, the common response here is, so what? We can create our own meaning. But within this philosophical framework, that idea faces a huge challenge. Faced with certain, total, cosmic annihilation, any purpose we invent for ourselves is temporary. The argument goes that it's basically like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Sure, it might be a noble and distracting thing to do, but it's still a delusion. It doesn't change where the ship is heading.
Okay, finally, let's talk about how this worldview might impact what we're all looking for: happiness. Can we be meaningfully happy if we don't have answers to life's biggest questions?
Let's try one last thought experiment to see what real happiness might require. Imagine you wake up and you're on this incredibly luxurious airplane. You're in the most comfortable seat you've ever been in. You've got the best food, any movie you could ever want to watch, perfect service, basically any material comfort or pleasure you can imagine is yours for the asking. For a little while, it would probably feel like paradise.
But here's the catch. You have no clue who put you on the plane, you don't know why you're on this journey, and you have no idea where it's going. Could you truly, genuinely be happy? Or would all that luxury just feel like a distraction from a deep, unsettling uncertainty? The argument is that it would be a superficial happiness, one built on ignoring the most important facts of your situation.
What's really fascinating here is that this quote, this very stark conclusion, doesn't come from a theologian. It comes from Richard Dawkins, one of the most prominent atheists in the world. He isn't criticizing this worldview, he's giving an honest assessment of its logical consequences. A universe with, as he says, nothing but blind, pitiless indifference. It's not good, it's not evil, it just is.
And so, this entire philosophical inquiry leaves us with a profound dilemma. If you accept that first premise of a purely natural universe and follow the logic to its end, you seem to arrive at a cosmos without ultimate hope, objective value, or any built-in purpose. So the question this line of thought forces us to confront is this: in that kind of universe, where do we find our meaning? That's a question we each have to consider for ourselves.